Okay, we are going to work with value in charcoal. I'm going to do a demonstration here. Okay, large format. Can't be working small with this clumsier material of charcoal. So I've got my image that I'm working from. This is the one I'm going to send you all. I'm going to send you a couple of others so that you can do some extra work to help with your 20 drawing limit. I've also got my value scale. I think it's important to keep this around so that you understand what you need to be looking for in using the charcoal for this drawing is to make sure you're looking at a range of values from light to dark. Okay, so the sheet of paper that I'm drawing on is an 18 by 24, and the image that I'm working from is printed on the 8.5 by 11, but it's a narrower rectangle. I don't know if you can see that. It's a narrower rectangle. So I went ahead and on my drawing paper I made a border, top and the bottom, and then that distance I doubled on the side. So I've got a narrower rectangle to correspond to what I'm seeing in the image. Okay, so it makes it easier if you can do that. Alright, I've got a couple of erasers, my soft compressed charcoal, soft, okay, and I got just a regular table napkin here. So that's all you need. What I'm looking at before I begin is just to take a minute to look over what it is you're drawing, this flower. And it's cropped. It means that you can't see all of it. Part of it runs off in the upper right hand corner. It also runs off at the bottom. Look at the space from the flower to the edge of the image. And then just kind of look at your space here and make sure you've got that in mind when you're trying to transfer the drawing. Okay. Now, as always, you always need a guide. You know, when you were working with the hatching, you had the edges of your boxes drawn in and then you filled in with your hatching. Here, we're going to have the beginnings of with a contour line, but we're going to go about it differently. Since this is value and it's a clumsier material, instead of using the corner to make a line, you remember when we talked about hatching that you have to be careful about outlining things, because what happens is they're hard to get rid of, and your hatches, it shows through the hatches and doesn't become as convincing as a cast shadow. Got a lot of stuff going on here in the neighborhood, so just kind of bear with us on those extraneous sounds. But so we're going to start with a contour, but we're going to use a thick line. So instead of using the corner, we're going to use the flat side of the charcoal. Alright, so I'm going to start up here. It's cropped off, so I want to look at that space and maybe double it, because this is a larger size. And it's a sweeping line, a gradual curve that bulges out and goes in and out a couple of times before we find an ending point. Okay, so here we go. Oops. I'm going to move this up here. Alright, let's begin. Flat side. Right here, it starts to billow out. It goes in, out, and then it comes out in the bottom. All of this black background is black. So I want to use the charcoal flat side. You can see why we're using the flat side. It covers a broad area. So I'll tell you, this goes a lot quicker than hatching. That's why all those assignments in hatching, I always told you to work small. Cover this up here. Okay. Now I'm going to come back to the other side. Look at where the top corner runs off, about right here. And I'm going to begin the drawing with the same process over on this side. Okay. Follow it down and about right here. It goes in. Oops, just a bit. It goes in and then comes down to the long, continuous ending. It goes all the way down. Okay, now it looks like I certainly have a white lily, but no other information. You just got a white blank shape, indicative of your flower right now. So remember, you're using a flat side of the charcoal. By the way, this gets a little messy here, so you're going to need to be cautious about where you do this drawing. Not a lot. You don't get a lot of particles of the charcoal that come down, but you can take a, oh, I didn't do it. You can take an old towel, lay it in your lap, put your drawing board over it, and then that way a lot of any of the dust will fall into that, and you can take it outside and shake it. If you have a lot of carpet in the house, I'd take a larger towel, put it under your feet, make sure it's over the drawing board, the area where you're drawing, and you can also put something in your lap. That way it'll catch all the particles. But I will tell you, this is not paint, so it'll wash out. Okay. All right, so now I want to continue to work some of this in. And we want to get rid of this graininess, because certainly this background doesn't look textured, not grainy. So now we're going to take paper towel, a napkin, soft one, and then you want to take a little time and gently rub this into the paper. Be careful with the edge here. We don't want to blur that out. We just want to work it in like so. Minimize that graininess. You can work it in here, and then you can very gently rub against the edge to keep that nice crisp line for right now. I'm not pressing hard at all. We just want to work the charcoal in to the paper. We don't want to remove it and have it all come on the napkin. Okay, do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so you get the idea here. Now, still, when you compare my drawing to the image, you certainly see that that background is a lot darker. So, again, take your charcoal and give it another shot of charcoal. Give it another shot. You want charcoal here, not only to make it darker, but we're going to use this charcoal to start to put information into the flower shape. Now don't worry too much if you notice, well, I'm a little off on the shape. I made it too fat or too long. You can't make it too long, or too narrow maybe, and you know, it's upsetting to you. But remember, you know, lilies don't all have exactly the same shape. As long as it looks organic and you don't try to make it look like one of those boxes that you've been drawing and sick of now, and then start enjoying a little bit of the liberty that you can take with the organic shapes of nature. A little more forgiving. Okay. All the projects, images that I'm going to send you as potential subject matter for dealing with this technique are all organic, okay? Nothing geometric. In drawing 2, I will assign some geometric shapes, or I have assigned geometric shapes for students in that class. Again, work it in a little. We probably will still need to adjust this later on toward the end, and maybe elaborate on this darkness. All right, now it's time to start going inside. Okay, so we're going to use this stuff and this dirty napkin to draw with. Alright, so you can see here in this upper corner that underneath this petal that hangs over, and when you look at the image you'll see what I'm talking about. This starts to get a little shadow under there to help create the curvedness of that petal as it bulges out towards us. So I'm going to look and approximate where it is. I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to bring it in. And I'm going to start to indicate where that shape is. And you see how I'm moving the charcoal as though I'm rubbing the petal itself. You can see some of the striations that show the curvature and the form of that petal. I'm going to come down here. You see all of this is gray, so I'm going to steal from my dark background and pull it in and coax it in with my napkin. And I want to do the same thing down here. See this bulge? What happens here? The same thing. Bring it in. Gentle, gentle. Now, if you were here, you could pull this napkin right out of my hand with ease and not tear it, because that gives you an idea of just how soft I'm holding and rubbing with it. And so now you have a little orientation here as to what's where. This comes in and out, so I want to come back to this, come in, so that I can elaborate on that shape. See that? Okay. And curve this a little more. Alright, so now we want to add some more gray. I see some right in here, and this helps form the edge of this folding petal right here. So once again, I'm going to look and find out where that is on my map and start to form it. This is still the early stages. We're just kind of finding our way around the image. But again, try to push the charcoal in the directions that you see the flower actually showing you. Alright, so now we've got that information. Okay, so now just to help things out, I'm going to come back and I'm going to use the flat side again, and I'm going to come back in and strengthen, using the flat side, a little more charcoal in the negative space, and at the same time I'm reestablishing my edge. You see? So it doesn't look soft and fuzzy anymore. I'm going to do that down here as well. And rub this back in here so it doesn't look like I've got a real heavy outline. And I can soften that later. Okay, now the other thing I need, I'm going to elaborate on this. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Reestablish some of the sharpness. I'm going to let the charcoal do the work for me. See that? Okay, now the other drawing tool that we have here, just want to do this at the top. And so you might have to do this a couple of times in the process of the drawing. If it starts to soften, you might need to come back there and rework it. I've got two erasers because I don't want to waste a lot of time cleaning them, because when they start getting logged in so heavily with charcoal, they don't erase anymore, they smear. So when they start to get really dirty, you need to clean them off. And what I use to clean them off is you need something rough. Something that has a little texture on it. And so I have this block of wood, scrap wood, and I just rub it on the roughness and it cleans it off. Okay, but you can use the back of your drawing board or anything that's rough, like the bricks in the background I could use and also take care of that same thing. Now with this is a drawing tool. It brings light back in the drawing. It's like drawing with a white pencil. Alright, now I see here that this has got a little too much in it, so now I could even use the flat side like this, and I can start to take some of this out or lighten it up. The harder you press, the more it removes. So I want to remove a little of this. That gentle touch, and up in here, this spot is a little on the dark side. And now what you're going to find is so much easier in charcoal to blend transitions than it is in the hatching technique. So I'm sure you'll welcome that situation. Alright, there's a line here I need to get rid of. So once again, I'm going to just push with the eraser lightly, and it's gone. See, now I've clarified this overlapping of this part with that there. And there's a slight edge. I'm just going to lightly take the side and rub this in there. See that? Like so. And I'm going to, don't do this too much, I'm just going to lightly rub it with my finger to take away the graininess. You can use your napkin as well. There we go. Okay, and soften it so it doesn't look too linear. Alright, now up in here we've also got a little, what did I do with my napkin? Let me get this other one I had from another drawing. And I'm going to come back to this upper corner and lay in a little gray here. And that's the other part of the petal. Now, if you can see in the photograph, if you can't, you'll see it when I send this image to you. There's a nice clean white line of light right over the tip of that. So I'm going to create that, but first I'm going to dirty this up because it is gray in there. That's not pure white. But the erased in edge is pure white. So I'm going to use that very flat edge there. Let me clean this off. I actually even use a sheet of paper to clean it off. It works just as well. And I'm going to use that flat point, and I'm going to start to erase that line. See that? And that's how you draw and bring white back in. And now you see the edge of that petal that wants to curve and come out. The same thing happens in here. So let me go ahead and dirty this up first. And we're going to bring it back and lessen the fuzziness by erasing it in. This is a little broader. So a little broader up at the top. Okay, you see that? And then you get a real dramatic light. And watch, we're going to bring it out by coming back to this point and making that edge of the background and the flower more dramatically dark and sharpen the edge again. Hello? Don't rub with your hands to get rid of the dust. You can use a napkin, a clean one, probably better than what I'm doing, to dust off those particles without it smearing. Alright, so now you go back in and maybe start directly applying with a flat side, but gentle. Don't get too much charcoal. It's always easier to darken and add more than to overly dramatize the grays here. Even though if it does get away from you, you can always use your eraser to draw with. Okay, I'm going to bring this up here. And I'm bringing that edge out by darkening this area underneath where it hangs over. Once again, I'm going to use a little of the napkin. So, and work this in so it loses the graininess and we don't have our have to erase in so much by going so far over that we add a little gray over the highlighted areas. Of course, if you do, you can always erase it back in. So you're starting to form the flower. Now it's a matter of coming back and maybe darkening this. Keep an eye on whether or not I need to darken this. I did one earlier, and you can see it's almost in the same state, except you can see I've placed a little more shadow in here, but I do need to darken this some more and push the drawing. And then when you're done, you can kind of clean up the border with the eraser a little bit, and then you have a real nice drawing. So this is working from a heavy contour, positive and negative space. So we're taking the negative space, this black, and we're using it to work the positive shape of the flower. So remember, it starts out with the background, this is white, and then we start pulling in with our napkin. Okay, so I'm going to send you a couple of extra images, but I want the first one to be based on this because it's the simpler of the ones, because you don't have the complete flower, it's cropped off. So it's manageable in a shorter period of time. Okay, great. We'll be in touch.